Greetings and thank you for tuning in. My name is Siobhan. The name of my channel is Blu-ray ATF because I am a Blu-ray twin flame, the A standing for the first name of my oversoul. One thing that I have learned about oversouls is that oversouls are unique, having different personalities. And a lot of times they're, I guess you could say, fractal aspects, or those of us that incarnate from a particular oversoul also take on part of their personalities. So that's why people are so diverse and act so differently. So the universe and the multiverse energy loves diversity. So that's why you'll also notice, like, even everything is done by examples, as within, so without, as above, so below. So even in like the act of monocropping or monocultures, source in the universe, energy is all about diversity. So when you create these crops or fields where the genes have been manipulated, or you're only choosing one aspect of its representation, it becomes ill, sick, or not even as potent or fruitful with vitamins and minerals as it would be with diversity. So that's just one example that came in when I was saying that. So the purpose of today's lesson is going to be discernment. So discernment is coming up a lot right now for the collective, and has been. Many of us have been, whether you knew you were learning it or not. You were given, we basically received lessons, and they do present sometimes as tests to see how strong you are. It is actually for your growth and for your expansion as a spiritual being, and getting to know yourself and master yourself. So one of the most important lessons presenting at this time is discernment. And discernment is one's ability to distinguish difference. So hotter versus colder, taller versus shorter, and it is often on a scale. More truth versus less truth, more love versus less love, pure intentions versus deceitful intentions. So people receive messages all day long. Being aware of your emotional scale or vibration is a strong indicator as to where your messages are likely coming from. So not all thoughts are your own. In order to master yourself, it is wise to master your thoughts. Your individual thoughts begin to attract the collective thoughts of those around you, and not just in your immediate vicinity, also even in a city. So it may be referred to as a thought bank. So thought banks and thought forms are a whole other discussion. So, however, discernment of positive thoughts versus negative thoughts will still aid you in mastering your own thoughts. So I want to share an example of, I'm going to do a reading, but I want to share an example of how I was led to this book. So one day I received a message to help a friend that was in another state. And I actually received a full vision while sitting in my living room. And this was, the previous night, or that night. So that night I received a vision sitting in my living room, just a full vision, which before this, and this was several years ago, but before this I would have visions like, usually dream time or first awaking. That was my first time having one just wide awake. So it was definitely a different experience. So, but I knew what I saw, and however, me being there would also require me to call off the next morning from work, make sure I have arrangements for transportation and care for my children, like after they got out of school, things like that. And also for me to travel a whole nother state. Mind you, I hadn't spoken to him that day, so it wasn't like I was going to be able to tell him that I was coming, or it would be kind of weird to tell him I even had a vision in the first place to be there. So there's quite a few things to think about, but I knew what I saw, and that night I actually turned within. Now, mind you, I was a little bit newer, even though we've been getting messages all through our childhood, but like actively being aware and knowing that you're communicating with spirit guides or your higher self and oversoul, and going to taking advice, knowing what you've seen and making the decision to go was a big one for me. And plus it feels unresponsible, on a 3D aspect, or like just to call off work the next day. Like and basically it had to be like about 9 o'clock at night, so it wasn't like it was a long time to think about this or make this decision. Either you go with what you saw or you don't. And so I asked several questions because I wanted to know, and I wanted to make sure that I am hearing from source, and that this was the highest source, God, or whatever you call it, But I just wanted to make sure it was of love and in my best interest, and be able to trust that when source gives me a message, it's always in my best interest and could never bring me harm. So I asked a few questions that night. I don't remember exactly what I asked, but I cried that night. I just wanted to make sure, So like I said, it was several years ago. So I did go. And when I got there, it wasn't even so much about, yes, I was able to assist someone in, traveling back to, Ohio. However, I was guided to a book. I found myself in their downtown library, which, the downtown libraries pretty much in any city are huge. And I was guided to a specific area, and usually Source will guide you to something else that's in your awareness to get you to something that's not in your awareness. So I was guided to another book to look at, like, my astrological sign, because I hadn't read it in years, and and I had this thought like, oh, you go look at that again. And I'm like, okay, so cool. So, but while I was over there in that area, I was told, and by this time I started hearing audiently again, that there was another book I needed to look at, or to go back. The first prompt was to go back to that section, because I had looked at the book I went to look at and then put it back. So I go back to look, and I'm scanning, just that area. And if you are familiar with libraries or even in the bookstores, the metaphysical area can have a wide range of things, especially at the time. I guess you would say I was more religious at the time, so there were still things I was not familiar with or dealing with, or just learning more about source. So there was like witchcraft books, and there was like UFO sightings. There was a wide range of things, and I was somewhat like nervous or disturbed, like, what in the world do you want me to read over here? So anyway, I scanned the bookshelf. I didn't really see anything that popped out to me, because I did have a book previously at a bookstore that literally was glowing, so I knew Source wanted me to get that book. So I was kind of, a lot of times we feed off our past experiences, but no books were glowing. So I look again, I hear look again. So I look again. I do see one book that's slightly standing out more than the others. So I pick up the book, and I'm like, is this the book? And it's called Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. And I was actually, like, in the beginning, I was younger. And I don't think it really has anything to do with age. When you're just getting used to something, you kind of question it a little bit more. And that's, where you're developing your trust. And I'm like, why would I want to read his Conversations with God? And Source or your spirit guides, they're never mean to you. They kind of just giggled at me, and they're like, reassuring me. And they're like, Siobhan, just open the book. So I opened the book, and I started reading the first, I think I read, it probably wasn't the first full chapter, but I'm going to read a few passages here for you. You can get the book yourself. It's called Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. And the very first part, because even Neale, everyone's skeptical initially, I think, when you start developing that relationship, because it is a relationship. It is supposed to be a two-way relationship. When you communicate with other people, as people, it's a two-way communication in a healthy relationship. And that's the way it should be with Source as well. So I'm skipping like a little bit, and it's just about Neil, how he, because he was actually quite frustrated when the communications began with him as Source. So he talks about that. But he enters the dialogue with a question. He had asked, I have been asking for a very long time, how does God talk and to whom? When I asked this question, here's the answer I received. I talk to everyone, all the time. The question is not to whom do I talk, but who listens. Intrigued, I asked God to expand on this subject. Here's what God said. First, let's exchange the word talk with the word communicate. It's a much better word, a much fuller, more accurate one. When we try to speak to each other, me to you, you to me, we are immediately constricted by the unbelievable limitation of words. For this reason, I do not communicate by words alone. In fact, rarely do I do so. My most common form of communication is through feeling. Feeling is the language of the soul. If you want to know what's true for you about something, look to how you're feeling about it. Feelings are sometimes difficult to discover and often even more difficult to acknowledge, yet hidden in your deepest feelings is your highest truth. The trick is to get to those feelings. I will show you how, again, if you wish. And also, just a side note here, I have noticed that one of the reasons why it is so strongly encouraged that men not be in touch with their feelings, or is frowned upon, looked down upon, demeaned, degraded, or even, called girly, and even women being emotional. And most time when they're referring to emotional, they're talking about negative emotions, because nobody's really upset about someone being in their positive emotions. But your emotions is part of your emotional guidance system, and is also another tool to help determine and discern whether or not you're hearing messages from Source, from ascended masters, ascended ancestors, spirit guides, angelics, multidimensional beings, your higher self, your oversoul, mother, father, source energy. You need these tools to help determine whether or not you're listening to something of love or something that is less than love. And anything that's less than love does not have your best interest at heart. And we should definitely understand this by now, because we've been in multiple relationships. You know you should be learning what a loving relationship feels like. And if you're mastering yourself and working on your vibration, you will begin to attract a loving relationship. So I told God that I did wish, but that right now I wished even more for a complete and full answer to my first question. Here's what God said. I also communicate with thought. Thought and feelings are not the same, although they can occur at the same time. In communicating with thought, I often use images and pictures. For this reason, thoughts are more effective than mere words as tools of communication. In addition to feelings and thoughts, I also use the vehicle of experience as a grand communicator. And finally, when feelings and thoughts and experience all fail, I use words. Words are really the least effective communicator. They are most open to misinterpretation, most often misunderstood. And why is that? It is because of what words are. Words are merely utterances, noises that stand for feelings, thoughts, and experience. They are symbols, signs, insignias. They are not truth. They are not the real thing. Words may help you understand something. Experience allows you to know it. Yet there are some things you cannot experience, so I have given you other tools of knowing, and these are called feelings, and so too thoughts. Now the supreme irony here is that you have all placed so much importance on the Word of God and so little on the experience. In fact, you place so little value on experience that when what you experience of God differs from what you've heard of God, you automatically discard the experience and own the words when it should be just the other way around. Your experience and your feelings about a thing represent what you factually and intuitively know about that thing. Words can only seek to symbolize what you know, and can often confuse what you know. These, then, are the tools for which I communicate, yet they are not the methods, for not all feelings, not all thoughts, not all experience, and not all words are from me. Many words have been uttered by others in my name. Many thoughts and many feelings have been sponsored by causes not of my direct creation. Many experiences result from these. The challenge is one of discernment. The difficulty is knowing the difference between messages from God and data from other sources. Discrimination is a simple matter with the application of a basic rule. Mine is always your highest thought, your clearest word, your grandest feeling. Anything less is from another source. Now the task of differentiation becomes easy, for it should not be difficult even for the beginning student to identify the highest, the clearest, and the grandest. Yet I will give you these guidelines. The highest thought is always that thought which contains joy. The clearest words are those words which contain truth. The grandest feeling is that feeling which you call love. Joy, truth, love. That is actually a really, really easy mantra as well. These three are interchangeable, and one always leads to the other. It matters not in which order they are placed. Having these guidelines determine which messages are mine and which have come from another source. The only question remaining is whether my messages will be heeded. Most of my messages are not. Some because they seem too good to be true. Others because they seem too difficult to follow. Many because they are simply misunderstood. Most because they are not received. My most powerful messenger is experience, and even this you ignore, especially this you ignore. Your world would not be in its present condition were you to have simply listened to your experience. The result of your not listening to your experience is that you keep reliving it over and over again. For my purpose will not be thwarted, nor will my message be ignored. You will get the message sooner or later. I will not force you to, however. I will never coerce you, for I have given you a free will, the power to do as you choose, and I will never take that away from you, ever. So I will continue sending you the same messages over and over again throughout the millennia and to whatever corner of the universe you occupy. Endlessly will I send you my messages until you have received them and held them close, calling them your own. My messages will come in 100 forms at 1,000 moments across 1,000,000 years. You cannot miss them if you truly listen. You cannot ignore them once truly heard. Thus will our communication begin in earnest, for in the past you have only talked to me, praying to me, interceding with me, beseeching me. Yet now can I talk back to you, even as I am doing here. Okay, so this is a great book. When I recommend, like if I give people my top 3, that one's always one of the top 3. One of the first that I recommend people start with, because it is important to at least develop discernment and have a more truer understanding of mother, father, source energy. So, and also, when God speaks of sending the messages over and over and over again, yes, in one particular lifetime, you tend to go in loops and circles because you're going to learn a lesson. When you learn a lesson, you break that chain, or you move on to another lesson. But many people have incarnated learning the same things over and over, or not learning, but being presented with the same experiences over and over and over again. And quite honestly, I'm just at the point where I want to learn as much as I can this time around. You know, I'm not interested in doing it over and over and over again. You know, so, and hopefully you're not either. So, yes, I did go. That was an act of, I did travel to the other state. I did get the book. I did, oh, by the way, every message that I had prayed or asked, all my questions I had asked about that night was answered for me in the first part of this book. So that is another reason I like to explain this story, because that is why I recommend this book. Things that I recommend, or when I converse or chat or talk or consult with anyone, it is always like the teaching moment is always back and forth. It's not just the teacher dictating. And most of what I share is from experience, unless it's just knowledge that comes straight from source. But a lot of it is experience. So even when I'm talking to someone who is in, whether or not they're in despair, frustration, or even going through their dark night of the soul, I went through mine. That's why I'm often, and have been told multiple times by many people, I'm very helpful. Even at work, even at the domestic violence shelter. Like, it doesn't matter where I go. Because what I speak is from love and from experience. I'm not just talking to you about something that I'm not aware of. So, but we are making choices all day long. These choices are like a declaration to the universe, stating who you have decided to be. Now, at any time, you can make a different decision, but understand that your choices are stating, it's a declaration to the universe, to source, of who you are. So I do want to share an experience or something I learned, and it was cleared for me during my AURA session with my teacher, Rising Phoenix Aurora. So I now, of course, do the same technique. So if you want to know how the sessions go, I would advise going to her channel until I start sharing more of my sessions. You know, of course, she's done many sessions, so she has sessions to share. Some sessions are too personal to share, but some sessions have so much information that come through from the higher dimensional beings, higher self and oversoul, that they need to be shared. So bear with me as I'm developing my channel and healing, the people that are guided to me to receive healing. So I do want to share an experience because it came up in my Aura session with Aurora. So there is a teacher that I used to participate in transmissions with on Facebook. One day that person did something out of character during a transmission. It was just out of character, I would say. So basically, she did not call in any of the archangels that we normally call in during transmissions. And she actually had called in several multidimensional beings who have not been known to choose light. So, of course, they were claiming that they were surrendering their control over humanity. They were ready to choose light, receive healing. And their surrendering, was in the form of a symbol or an object. It's not necessary to say what it was. So during this transmission, we were purposely put to sleep and deceived into receiving a dark energy. Now, this dark energy may have manifested differently for others, but I'm going to share how it manifested for me. So it was brought to my attention within hours, the same day or the next day, about the corruption in the transmission. And so many of us that participate have fallen asleep because, of course, I know other members and things like that. then the archangels were giving certain people messages. And really, we worked as a group on this, which was quite actually interesting and a very good learning experience. So I did the transmission a second time with the intention of staying awake and being aware of what actually occurred. And of course, I did call in my own oversoul for guidance and things like that. And to be honest with you, it is very important to do shielding anytime you are interacting with energy or transmissions, because if it's of love and light, all you're doing is adding to that love and light, and that's also the other lesson we got. Regardless of how often you've interacted with someone, still do your own individual personal shielding, because like I said, people can make a different choice at any time, and you're making choices every day as well. So basically, this symbol of control that was supposed to be destroyed was actually placed. It was deceitful, like a magic trick. Like while we're looking at this individual, preparing to destroy it, they're actually placing it into each and every one of us that participate in this transmission. So I seen this going on, and I also felt their intentions towards me as they approached me, basically like, hey, we're gonna put this here. And it's like, no, you're not. So I actually thought, because I answered to them and said no, I thought they had not placed the, object or the symbol, and actually they were placing them into our root chakras. However, I did find out later on with more, guidance from source and during my aura session, that it was placed during that first time where I had fell asleep, and that we were actually put to sleep on purpose. So during my aura session, it was discovered that this dark energy, Aurora had not even come across this dark energy before, but it had attached to my auric field and was actually draining off energy via a portal. So the entity that had been placed had actually been removed, because I did seek assistance from other healers. Another friend of mine had removed the entity, but was not aware of the portal. So during my session with Aurora, she and the angelics and other higher multidimensional beings did clear and heal the damage done to my auric field and close the portal. So I did receive like a massive healing that day, which is why it's so important to have these quantum healings. Every vessel has entities attached to them. You can have them within your vessel, outside of your vessel, among your auric field, implants, portals. I've seen several things already, and I know, like I said, Aurora's seen even more. But every person I've done a session on has needed healing and clearing with dealing with entities. So Source is aware of the entities. They actually serve a purpose. Like I said, I think I've said this before, dark energies serve a purpose. They're here for our expansion as the spiritual masters that we are, with the contrast, making decisions. They serve multiple purposes. However, once it becomes imbalanced, which it has become greatly imbalanced, which we are restoring that, because it's become so imbalanced, it's at a state of, or it was previously at a state of destruction, which we are, of course, actively healing that. But, I've been told multiple times, more of us need to become aware, more of us need to participate in our healings, more of us need to clear our vessels, need to activate our remembrance, need to activate our purpose and step into our role. They are really, calling for that to happen immediately. And there's actually, I think there was a council recently where they were trying to decide whether or not they were going to send more star seeds. But this could have a negative impact if those of us that are here and earth beings, humans, do not learn how to heal and activate themselves. So it's not about having someone come do it for us. all of us are in a group effort to raise the vibration. Every individual vibration is necessary to rise for the rising of the collective vibration. So, in my opinion and what I feel from my oversoul, I'm thinking that we're going with no. We don't need any more starseeds. We need the ones that are present, the starseeds, angelics, and the earth origin beings. Like I said, we're all working together to heal and raise our vibration. So we just need to remember who we are and have confidence in ourselves and be the light. We can do it. I believe in every single one of you, because you would not be here if you could not do it. So even though, let me see, where was I? Sorry about that. So even that transmission was another test of discernment. Even right away when I started inquiring with my guides, even when I did a full reading, I even inquired as to how this would happen, even to the other teacher. I got, information about that, so I understand how important it is for us to maintain our vibration. Because when you have negative thoughts, fearful thoughts, angry thoughts, when you're mad at your twin, unhealed, you create tears or open spaces, especially if it's traumatic, and that allows for interference, manipulation, and entities to enter your vessel. So yes, even though there was damage, it was actually a lesson learned, and actually very beneficial for my growth, and received lots of congratulations. And plus it was healed with no problem. So what I have learned is, even when we are presented with lower energies and entities, every experience is for our highest good, development, and expansion. That teacher and every person, any person that chooses dark, will be healed eventually. They will learn their soul lessons at the pace that is best for them, and overseen by their spirit guides, higher self, and oversoul. So now I am going to do a reading. It's just going to be a small 4-card reading here. And the question is, what is holding us back as a collective from developing our discernment? What blocks are present? What do we need to clear? What do we need to heal? But what is holding us back from developing our discernment? So the immediate situation. Okay. So I got contemplating time. Contemplation time. Time to make decisions. Spend time alone meditating upon what you truly desire. What do you truly desire? Do you truly to communicate with your highest essence? Do you truly desire to become your purest you? There really is no competition other than your development, you becoming a better you. And how do you do this? Discernment is a very important tool, especially when you're interacting with spirits. And whether you know you're interacting with spirits, you are. You don't have to know. You've been interacting with them. You are a spirit. So you were interacting with them before you incarnated. You've been interacting with them since you were a child. This is a very important tool to develop, to decide, who are you? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? What are you going to become? You can be, do, and have anything that you want. And discernment will help you to get there. So what's holding us back as a collective? a new dawn. So to me, this feels like a new energy. So the worst is now behind you and positive new experiences are on the horizon. So what's been holding us back is our past experiences. A lot of times, even when this presents sometimes even when people get healing. Like they get healed of things or, things are clear for them, but then you still have to develop that trust and that confidence in yourself and your ability to hear clearly and discern and communicate with source. And a lot of times you'll even doubt the healing because it hasn't worked before in the past. But if you have learned new things, if you are now developing as a spirit, you have added to yourself, to your knowledge, to your wisdom. Why would you expect the same things to happen when you didn't know any better? If you know better now, why would you expect the same results when you did not know better? It makes no sense. And actually, that is just what Spirit would call just release it. Let it go. What's in the past is in the past. Let it go. Tomorrow has nothing to do with yesterday and 5 years ago. Let it go. Especially as you're growing and you're healing and you're learning more, don't expect the same results. And if you don't want the same results, please learn something, please heal something, please change something, please change your thoughts, because your thoughts are what is creating your experience. You don't like something, change yourself. Heal yourself. Be a greater version of you. That's all we're asking. Be a greater version of you. So what do we need to do? Okay, so I've got protection. So when it comes to protection, it says you and your loved ones and your possessions are safe and protected by heaven. So source is with you. It's up to you whether or not you want to listen. And it's up to you to develop your discernment to know and feel and determine what is of your highest source. When it comes to protection, protections are good, tools are good, shielding is good, saging is good, crystals are good. Like there's a lot of different tools that you can use. Even salt is good. And these are good as you are developing yourself. But the greatest protection, the greatest level of protection is still going to be discernment and raising your vibration. Because once you raise your vibration high enough, these lower ones cannot even interact with you. And you raise that light in your body to the point where they can't even stand the light or be present. It's too much energy for them. They literally freak out. And if you're not numb, if you can feel your body, if you can feel what's going on in your body, because that's one reason why they prescribe you medications is to numb you, you can actually feel their presence. That's why I'm very thankful that I've had all mine removed. So you'd be surprised at how much we can hear from source, even with interference. I was surprised. Definitely surprised. But your best protection is going to be discernment. So tools and shields are great as you are developing. You can even create force fields of love that are transmuting the lower vibrational energy into love and light that radiate from you. You can be a literal walking ball of love, or there's just love radiating from you and transmuting energy everywhere you go. That's what we're getting to. That's what we're desiring and wanting as we move forward. So what's the likely outcome if you develop your protections and your discernment as tools? Ready, set, go. Let's get it. That's what this card is saying. You are ready. Let's go. Let's trust. Let's move forward. Now is the perfect moment to dive in and embrace your heart's desire. Choose love. Choose light. Because anything less is going to be to your detriment. There's no need to be manipulated, deceived, used, and cast aside. I don't even know if I want to go into that conversation as to why someone would choose darkness. However, I have had a conversation with a reptilian, so I do understand where line of thinking comes from and why they believe what they do, but sorry, it's just not my choice. And actually, one of the questions that was asked to me many years ago, several years ago, was actually by my ex-husband. My ex-husband asked me, would you really want to choose light? Would you really want to do what God wants you to do? And to me, it was a no-brainer. It's like, yeah, of course. You choose light, you choose love. There is no more war. There is no more famine. There is no more rape. There is no more molestation. There is no more murder. Like, how could you not choose love? How? I'm not even interested really in trying to understand that, other than to assist someone with their healing. Because oftentimes it just means they're unhealed and they feel that this is a way to protect themselves. And it's just a misunderstanding. And for that, I have compassion. So, love and light to you. Just a reminder, all lower vibrational beings, entities, energies will be transmuted to love and light and reintegrated back into the source. So it's all energy. We're all one. Namaste. Love you.